You're in a meeting. Someone gives you clear instructions. You nod, you understand, you even repeat it back in your head. Then 10 seconds later, it's gone. Not because you weren't listening, not because you don't care. It just disappeared. And the worst part is, you can't even remember what you forgot. This isn't about memory problems. It's not about focus issues. It's about how your brain decides what to keep and what to throw away, often before you even realize it's making that choice. Most people assume forgetting something you just heard means you weren't paying attention. But attention and memory aren't the same thing. You can be fully present, fully engaged, and still lose the information seconds later. Because hearing something and remembering something require two completely different processes in your brain. When someone speaks to you, the words enter what researchers call working memory. This is a temporary holding space. It's not designed to store things long-term. It's designed to hold information just long enough for you to use it right now. Working memory is extremely limited. You can only hold a few pieces of information at once, and if anything else competes for that space, even something small, the original information gets pushed out. This happens faster than you think. Let's say someone tells you a phone number while you're standing in a hallway. You repeat it once in your head, then someone walks by, or you glance at your phone, or you think about what you're going to say next. That tiny shift in attention is enough to erase what you just heard. It's not that you're distracted. It's that your brain treated the information as temporary, because that's what working memory is built to do. Here's the uncomfortable part. Most of what you hear throughout the day never makes it past this stage. Your brain doesn't save it. It doesn't even try. It discards it automatically, unless something tells your brain this information matters. And most of the time, nothing does. Research shows that for information to move from working memory into long-term memory, it needs rehearsal, meaning, or emotion. You need to repeat it, connect it to something you already know, or feel something about it. But in everyday conversation, most of what people say doesn't meet that threshold. It's not emotional. It's not connected to anything. And you don't have time to repeat it, because the conversation keeps moving. So your brain does what it's designed to do. It lets it go. This is why you can forget someone's name immediately after they introduce themselves. You heard it. You acknowledged it. But your brain never encoded it, because there was no reason to. The moment passed, and the information dissolved. It's also why you can finish a work call and genuinely not remember half of what was discussed, even though you were fully present the entire time. You were listening. But listening doesn't equal storing. Your brain assumes most spoken information is disposable. And in a world where people talk constantly, where meetings run back to back, where instructions come rapid fire through Slack and email and hallway conversations, your brain is making those decisions hundreds of times a day. It has to. If it tried to store everything, you wouldn't be able to function. But this creates a strange problem. You feel like you should remember. The conversation just happened. The person is standing right in front to you. It feels like a failure when you can't recall what they said 30 seconds ago. But it's not a failure. It's a feature. Your brain is protecting itself from overload by being extremely selective about what it keeps. The issue is that your brain's selection process doesn't always match what you consciously think is important. You might decide in the moment that something matters, but if your brain doesn't encode it with repetition, meaning, or emotion, it won't store it, and by the time you realize you've forgotten, it's already too late to go back and reinforce it. This is why writing things down works, not because it helps you remember later, though it does, but because the act of writing forces your brain to process the information differently. It moves it out of working memory and into a more deliberate system. It gives your brain a reason to treat it as worth keeping, but most of the time you don't write things down. You assume you'll remember, and your brain assumes you won't need to, so the information disappears. There's another layer to this. Your working memory isn't just competing with distractions from the outside world. It's also competing with your own thoughts. The internal dialogue running in your head while someone is talking. You might be listening to your manager explain a new process, but part of your brain is already thinking about how this will affect your schedule, or replaying something that happened earlier, or planning what you'll say when it's your turn to speak. This divided attention doesn't feel like distraction because you're still facing the person. You're still nodding. You're still engaged. But cognitively, your working memory is now trying to juggle multiple streams of information at once. And when that happens, something has to give. Usually, it's the thing you're hearing right now. This is especially common in conversations where you feel pressure to respond. You're not just listening, you're also preparing. And that preparation takes up space in the same mental system that's supposed to be holding on to what the other person is saying. By the time they finish talking, you've lost parts of it. Not because you weren't interested, but because your brain was doing two things at once, and it couldn't hold both. Here's what makes this even more frustrating. Sometimes you do remember what someone said, but only in fragments. You remember the tone. You remember that it was important, but the actual content is missing. This happens because different parts of the information get processed in different ways. Emotional tone, facial expressions, and context often get encoded more easily than specific words or details. Your brain prioritizes the emotional meaning of a conversation over the precise information, so you walk away with a feeling, a sense of what was said, but not the details. And when someone asks you to repeat it, you can't. This doesn't mean you have a bad memory. It means your memory is doing exactly what it evolved to do, filtering aggressively, keeping only what seems necessary, and discarding the rest without asking permission. The problem is that modern life constantly puts you in situations where you're expected to retain information that your brain sees as temporary. Meeting notes, instructions, names, details, comments made in passing. None of these come with the emotional weight or repetition your brain needs to store them. So they vanish, and you're left feeling like you weren't present, even though you were. You were there. You were listening. Your brain just didn't think it mattered. And here's the thing. Most of the time, it's right. Most of what people say in casual conversation doesn't need to be remembered. Your brain has learned this over a lifetime. It knows that most spoken information is redundant, replaceable, or irrelevant an hour later, so it doesn't bother saving it. Think about how many conversations you have in a single day. How many sentences are spoken to you? How many instructions, updates, comments, and questions? If your brain tried to store all of that, you'd be overwhelmed within hours. Instead, it makes rapid decisions about what to keep and what to discard. And most of the time, those decisions happen without your awareness. You don't feel your brain deleting information. You just notice later that it's gone. This isn't something you can fix by trying harder. Working memory has a biological limit. You can't expand it by focusing more. You can't force your brain to hold more pieces of information at once. What you can do is recognize when something actually needs to be remembered and give your brain a signal. Repeat it out loud. Write it down. Connect it to something you already know. Pause before moving to the next thing. But even then, you'll still forget most of what you hear, because that's what your brain is built to do. It's not broken. It's not lazy. It's just trying to survive in a world where people never stop talking, and most of what they say doesn't need to last longer than the moment it's spoken. You're not failing when you forget. You're just human. And your brain is working exactly as it should.